Welcome back for another video. Approaching the halfway mark of the season, let's catch up with what the experts are doing this week, the transfers they're making, how the experts team looks, and captaincy for Gameweek19. Let's begin with the manager highlight as always. The competition has been fierce at the top of the league, with another new name taking the top spot, Ali Beck with 80 points, and he's moved up to 950th in the world, just inside the top 1k. He's looking for a third top 10k in his career, and he's well on his way. The average score in the Experts League was 64, well done if you managed to beat that. The global average was 51. Moving straight onto the transfers segment next. For Gameweek19, just over a half are planning to roll, 35% making one transfer, 12% making two, and one's making 3 moves. There's one wildcard active this week as well, so we'll have a look at their team later in the video. There were quite a lot of comments this week about a wildcard team, so that segment should be especially helpful for those using it this week. If you've still got your wildcard, there's no reason not to activate it right now. This game week's your last chance to use it or you'll lose the wildcard. So, who are the top players the experts are buying and selling? The number one transfer in is Munoz, 12% are picking up the Palace wingback, ahead of Southampton home as well. We talked quite a bit about him in the team selection video. Palace have got great long-term fixtures. He's the 4th best defender in the league for expected goal involvement, and he's only 4.7 mil. The joint most sold players aren't defenders however, it's Flecken and Bruno who 8% are selling. Flecken was withdrawn in the first half in the 0-0 draw with Brighton, and it looked like a groin injury. Valdemarson came on for him, he had a good game actually. It's a good excuse to sell him if he is a doubt, given Brentford face Arsenal anyway, and they've got Man City and Liverpool in the next 4 as well. Henderson is the most bought keeper with 5% opting for him. A further 7% are buying Isak this week, who's nearing 100% ownership among the experts now, compared to 44% overall. Sarr is the most transferred in midfielder this week, followed by Gordon, Eze, Enzo and Odegaard. After just 1 assist in his last 6 games, João Pedro is the 3rd most sold player, though there's not many appealing alternatives to be honest. If your structure allows for it, then benching him for the next 2 is a sound strategy, and then you start him again for Ipswich onwards after that. He's only 5.8 mil, and he is on penalties, so perhaps we need to temper expectations. Similarly priced forwards like Visser, Strand Larsen, Evan Nilsson and Jimenez haven't done well lately either, though of course if you can go João Pedro to Isak, then that's a really obvious move to make. Cunha is now the top scoring forward in the game with 110 points after a goal and assist last match, however 3% are selling him still. He's had a hand in 22 Wolves goals this calendar year. The only Brazilian to ever manage more in a calendar year is Coutinho back in 2017 with 23 involvements. It's not a bad fixture next for a striker either, Spurs away. After that it's a bit trickier, it's Forest, Newcastle, Chelsea and Arsenal. No news at the time of recording on his ban, so it looks like it could be the new year before anything gets announced there. So last week we had 99% of wildcards used, and the final one is active, so let's dot the I's and cross the T's with the final wildcard for the first half of the season. As soon as the game updates on Sunday, we'll get another wildcard. I'm genuinely amazed by the position this manager's in as well. It's FPL Creed activating the wildcard 19 game weeks in, and yet he's 1.1k in the world. The level of squad management needed to make it this far without wildcarding, plus to be on the cusp of top 1k is seriously impressive. He has used his free hit, but still really good. He's also sitting on 5 free transfers. He shared his team with us and it's as follows. It's Alisson, Sarr, Trent, Colwill, Anderson, Munoz, Powell, Salah, Palmer, Eze, Odegaard, Rogers, Isak, Watkins and Stewart. Here's what he had to say. Currently on 5 free transfers, free hit played, all other chips intact. Goalkeepers then. Alisson, top option with the pool double coming up. Slight issue might be the Gameweek29 blank, but I'd remedy that with free transfers hopefully, if my other goalkeeper's benched by them. Jose Sarr, he's Gameweek29 Alisson cover. He's more nailed than Fabianski in that game, is my thinking. Defenders, Trent, double coming up, top option overall, more or less an obvious pick. Munoz, great fixtures, great attacking underlines, very much nailed as Trent for me. Colwill, Powell, Concert, Anderson, they rotate quite well and they're very cheap. Powell if I need the 0.1 mil badly. Anderson instead of Castagna because of Gameweek29 nailedness. Quite a few other options at this price point. Midfielders, Salah, Palmer, self-explanatory, the 2 premiums to own now. Eze, even with low penalty percent and seemingly lower minutes, he seems too good to pass up on at 6.6 mil looking at the Palace fixtures for me. Odegaard, with Bruno banned and Saka injured, he feels like the midfielder to own alongside Salah and Palmer for a while. He's on most set pieces, especially pens, and he'll likely swap for Bruno when the latter's back soon. Rogers, I bought him at 5 mil, fantastic value, and his ex-mins are higher than most of us expected, essentially the cheap mid to own, and maybe get McNeil near the double. The forwards then, Isak, obvious with Wilson out, good fixtures and does the points. Watkins, he might be my punt of having 5 free transfers. He seems nailed while Duran's banned, and he would be transferred out after. And then Stewart, bench fodder. I have Solanke and João Pedro in other drafts instead of him and Watkins, but this just seems spicier. Honourable picks, players that I'm considering but probably won't make it, at least not at Gameweek19. Pickford, Henderson, Gabriel Hall, Mikalenko, Son, Martinelli, Gordon, McNeil and Mbumo, Semenyo, Armstrong and Ndai. Thanks very much for sending in to us, Creed, and best of luck on the wildcard. Let's move on to captaincy next, and there's 3 names in the mix this week. Salah with 79%, Palmer with 20% and Haaland with 1%. So Salah the big favourite this week. I thought it might be closer given Chelsea got Ipswich. But that all said, Fabianski looks set to miss out on Gameweek19 after coming off injured last match, and Kilman's also a big doubt in centre-back, so it's looking like a Mavropanos and Todibo centre-back pairing. 16 goals, 11 assists, 27 returns in 17 games played, astonishing pace. If he was going to continue his 10.8 points per match, he'd finish the season on about 414 points, over 100 points above the all-time record of 303. 11 double-digit hauls this season, next highest is Palmer with 5. What do FPL review projections say for Gameweek19? Well, Haaland's top this week on 7.2 points, then it's Salah and Palmer tied just behind on 7.1, and then Son on 6.3, so it really is that close this week. Have you decided who you're captaining this week? Let us know in the comments. As Magnus Carlsen once said, always just cap Salah, never get fancy. Always just cap Salah, never get fancy. Is anyone getting fancy this week though? Let's move on to the experts team for Gameweek19, and if you'd like to follow this series with data from top all-time managers to help you through the rest of the season, hit subscribe. This week it's Raya in goal, it's Robinson and Trent and Gabriel in defence, it's Palmer, Enzo, Salah and Rodgers in midfield, João Pedro, Isak and Jackson up front, Fabianski, Semenyo, Hall and Greaves on the bench. So Bruno and Ahmad leave the team for Enzo and Semenyo. Only a couple of percent difference in ownership though between Enzo, Ahmad and Bruno however, with about 2 million in the bank for this draft now. Palmer and Salah both 100% owned among the experts, Isak 89%, Gabriel 81% and João Pedro still 77% owned. The game feels like it's in a transitional period. That Salah, Palmer and Saka template's gone, and everyone's heading in different directions with Saka replacements, which can only be a good thing to open the game up more. The weaker the template, the more opportunities there are. Let's finish with Gameweek19 final thoughts and tips. FPL Sis says, I've finally lost patience with City and Lewis. I'm looking for a better return for my transfer than Bruno this week. Welcome to the team Munoz. Cracking fixture meets cracking data. What can possibly go wrong? Alex says, Visser to Isak unless Cunha's ban is confirmed before the deadline. Captaincy's on Salah this week unless there's any murmurings of arrest. Ben Coleman says, I'd like to bring in a Crystal Palace attacker now, as they have a really good run of fixtures starting with Southampton at home. Salah looks like a great pick, but at the moment I'm happy with my midfielders than my forwards. For that reason my plan is to go for Mateta, who should be able to tick along nicely over the next few game weeks. And lastly, better late than never for Morten Gamst Edison buying Isak this week and says, tried to go differential with Evan Nilsson and failed, all aboard the Isak Express. Thanks very much for watching. We're going to be live right here for the deadline on Sunday. See you all then.